Portions of the following program may have been pre-recorded.
The following program's views, claims, or ideas may not reflect those of WSRR Radio or StylesRebelRadio.com.
Welcome to another exciting episode of Behind Enemy Lines, your Cleveland sports talk show from Pittsburgh. I'm Lucas D'Orazio, joined as always by Dom Farrow, and you are listening to WSRR Radio. 216-859-8699 is the hotline to give us a call or a text and let us know what you think about the state of Cleveland sports, as we will be getting into it today. As I said, I'm Lucas D'Orazio, joined as always by Dom Farrow. This is your 10 o'clock Monday morning block on your drive into work, and this is Behind Enemy Lines. Dom, it is May 5th. I almost said April. We jumped into the new month. It is May 5th, and this is our first recording since the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh rounds of the NFL draft happened. We had our day one breakdown last week. Go back and listen to that on Spotify or anywhere you get your podcasts, including YouTube, if you want to hear our first round breakdown that we recorded on Friday morning before day 2 and 3 happened of the draft. But now the dust has settled. It has been over a week since days 2 and 3 of the draft, and we are here for the full breakdown of the Cleveland state of affairs after the draft, where days 2 and 3 got a little bit nutty in Cleveland, to be honest, as things got a little bit off script, right, Dom?
Big time. Big time. No one saw a lot of this coming, and we'll get into it, but I think the Browns had the biggest moment of the draft on two sides. They may have had the two biggest. First, you got Dillon Gabriel. People are like, what's going on here? And then you take Shedeur Sanders. It was all very, very confusing, but we'll dive deeper into this.
That's right. We might as well get right into the Browns immediately, because I think you're right. One of the biggest moments of day 2 was the fact that the Browns went with Dillon Gabriel in the third round, pick number 30, pick number 94 overall in the draft, one of the last picks of day 2. They go with Dillon Gabriel, and I think that this was the point where a lot of people were saying, all right, something really, really weird is going on around Shedeur Sanders. I think that people were already saying it, but the fact that Dillon Gabriel was a quarterback that got taken before Shedeur, like, that was not a name on anyone's bingo card that would have went over Shedeur Sanders. Like, even Tyler Shuck going to the Saints was kind of like a big shock. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they went with him over Shedeur. But when you look at it, he's like a 6'4", 6'5" quarterback. He really did play pretty well at Louisville. He looks pro ready. It wasn't completely out of the realm of possibility going into NFL draft weekend for Tyler Shuck. The fact that a 5'10" lefty got taken over Shedeur Sanders by the Browns, who have QB needs, obviously, was really, like you said, one of the biggest moments in the draft to that point.
I didn't think much of the Shedeur Sanders slide during the draft. I mean, I thought, people thought he was going to be a first rounder, but obviously just people didn't understand what the NFL teams were thinking. And I didn't think much of it. I was like, yeah, he's a big headache. Dion brings a whole circus with him wherever that family goes. I was like, okay, it kind of makes sense, because the NFL isn't strictly drafting people based on their talent. There's a lot of factors that get involved here, and I thought it made sense that Shedeur dropped out of the first round. That's fine. And then even Dillon Gabriel getting picked. You know what? That's fine. Dillon Gabriel was a really good quarterback in college football, had a lot of success at Oregon. I was a big fan of him. I've talked about him many times on this program, and he was a guy that I, was kind of interested in the Steelers getting. But the moment when I realized something truly was up, something truly was fishy. I'm not a conspiracy guy, but this is when I knew things were wacky. When Shedeur Sanders made it past the point that Stetson Bennett got drafted, that is the part where I was like, wait, what in the world is going on? Because Stetson Bennett, everyone knew that guy was never going to be successful in the NFL. Shedeur, he had a ton of amazing games at Colorado. There's no reason that he should have been taken above where Stetson Bennett was taken just a few years ago. That was the part where I was like, all right, now we've truly lost our minds here. What are these teams doing?
Yeah, I think that it's interesting. Now, at the same time, I think Stetson Bennett maybe doesn't get enough credit. I mean, he did win a national championship. He was on Georgia, who was super stacked. But I still think he had some natural tools. He's also a guy who was a walk-on, like at Georgia. He was, underappreciated, and then, did what he needed to do to win games. But yeah, going back to the Shedeur Sanders thing, I do think it's crazy. And I think there's a lot of conspiracy theories going around right now on like NFL Twitter and in the NFL fan base about what happened with Shedeur. He was represented by Deion, which I think was one thing that was a big a hindrance on his draft day and where he went, because I mean, people kind of seem to try to take agents for granted, but like they really are super valuable. We saw it with like Lamar Jackson. Like he was trying to be his own agent for a while and a deal couldn't get closed for a while. And
yeah,
I can't remember if he actually ended up going with an agent or not, or if he did close it on his own accord. But either way, it seemed like the Sanders family kind of almost felt like they were interviewing teams as to whether or not they would be a good fit for Shedeur rather than vice versa, which I think is just entering this the NFL that is such a professional league, like in the wrong mindset. You know what I mean? Like the NFL is going to go on no matter whether or not Shedeur Sanders is in the league. People are still going to watch. Like it's not like it is a smaller league where it's like, oh man, like everyone's going to be jumping to take this guy because he is the story of the league. Like, it's not the WNBA where Caitlin Clark was the biggest player in the thing, but like maybe she wasn't as good, so teams maybe would have taken her. Not saying that Caitlin Clark was. Obviously, she was the best player in the draft. Like, but if there was a little more media circus around her, maybe like someone with Angel Reese, like people are jumping at the chance to her because she is the big name coming out. Shedeur Sanders kind of is like that, but the NFL doesn't need Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a Lonzo Ball situation. He probably would have gotten drafted higher if he wasn't the biggest like clown in the NBA at that time. Or
that's a great parallel, actually. The great NBA parallel is Lonzo Ball.
There really is nothing comparable for this Shedeur situation. We've never really had an NFL greats kid come in and be talked about this highly. And then you add all this of him dropping. I don't know. Like, will he ever get a true fair shot to be a starter in the NFL?
Yeah, and I think that's one thing. We can talk about that really quick, like his chance in Cleveland, which I think that he definitely will get a chance because their quarterback situation is so bad. And I think that, in all honesty, the state of the team still isn't a state where they can win. I think he'll start 2 to 4 games this year in Cleveland. But the thing is, I don't know, maybe 4 is being generous. I'm just kind of banking on them losing a lot of games. But the thing that's tough...
But like, you think you draft Dylan Gabriel before him, you think that Gabriel, automatically should be first in line ahead of him. Obviously, I think Joe Flacco will start the season. Who knows what's going to happen with Kenny Pickett, but like Shedeur, where he gets drafted at, that is a big factor on how much leeway he gets, when he plays, where he plays. It would be really fascinating if Shedeur starts before Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah, I think it would be really interesting too. Also, I saw a tweet that had like DraftKings put up odds of who will take the first snap as Browns quarterback. And shockingly to me, Kenny Pickett was the highest odds. He was like minus 250 or something like that. And Joe Flacco was like plus 1,200, which shocked me.
Oh, wow.
I tried to go on the DraftKings app because I was going to put $100 on Joe Flacco. Not that much, actually. I don't have that much disposable income. But I was about to put $10, $15 on Joe Flacco being the day one starter. But again, I couldn't find it. I don't know if that was a real tweet or not, or a real odds or not, to be honest. But
I don't think it is. This was April 30th, so a few days ago. Joe Flacco is plus 116. He is the favorite right now to start. Kenny Pickett's second. Shador does have better odds at plus 370 than Dylan Gabriel at plus 830.
Yeah, which is interesting. But the thing that I wanted to say, though, is you mentioned, like, is he really going to get a fair shot to start in the NFL? The thing that's really hard in this situation for him, in my opinion, is that after trading back in that first round, the Browns now have 2 first-round picks next year. I think the second they did that and they traded out of the number 2 spot, everyone kind of immediately thought, like, okay, they're going to take a quarterback next year, whether it's Arch Manning or Lenoris Sellers, maybe Cade Klubnik. You know, there's some bigger quarterback names coming out next year than there were this year. And I still think that they're in a position where they very much so could take a quarterback next year. And that's why I feel like, not that I want Shador Sanders to get like a huge shot, because again, if you've listened to this program, you know that I haven't been the biggest supporter of Mr. Sanders and his chances on the Cleveland Browns. I really didn't want the Browns to take him at all. But now he's not really going to get a very fair shot to start, because I feel like if he shows any signs of not being the guy, which I don't think he's going to have a bunch of signs of being this team's franchise quarterback, they can just fall back on the fact they have 2 first-round picks next year. It's like, whatever, he was a 5th rounder, Dylan Gabriel was a 3rd. Let's take a guy in the first round who could be a generational guy, a Hall of Famer, possibly a franchise guy, you know, has Hall of Fame pedigree in his family if they're in a position to take Arch Manning.
I just don't love that approach, though. It seems like there's no like real plan. It's just like betting and like seeing like, hopefully this works, and if it doesn't, well, maybe we can waste a few more picks next year. I might have said it last week, but I feel like trading out that 2 spot, I get that the quarterback class next year is better, but you had an opportunity to draft Travis Hunter, and you kind of just threw that away. I think there was a big drop off from Travis Hunter to Mason Graham. And then on top of that, you end up drafting 2 quarterbacks in this class. It's like, you know, like what's really the goal? Like, what is the vision here? And then 2 running backs as well. I mean, they definitely needed to improve that room, but
it did.
I don't know. What did you think about the Samson pick in the 4th round?
It kind of felt like darts, just throwing darts at a dartboard at some point. I mean, I didn't like the Dylan Sampson pick. Not that I don't think he's going to be a really good running back. And I think that anyone else taking him in the 4th round would have been like a pretty good value pick. But they have Jerome Ford. People still want them to bring back Nick Chubb, even though right now they have 2 rookie running backs and Jerome Ford, who's still on a rookie contract. And I think, don't get me wrong, I think Jerome Ford's really good too. I think he's a damn good running back.
Yeah.
For the Browns. At times last year, I thought he was their best player. But yeah, I didn't understand it. Getting Quinshon Judkins, I was fired up about that. I liked that. I liked getting a Buckeye. In all honesty, I wanted Travion Henderson more than I wanted Judkins, but I like Judkins. I actually, he parallels a lot to Kareem Hunt, who I think, you know, was obviously a big part of the Browns, especially that playoff year where they did win a playoff game, and the year with Joe Flacco where they didn't win a playoff game, but they got to the playoffs. You know, Kareem Hunt was obviously a huge part of both those teams, and I think I see a lot of Kareem Hunt in Judkins, and maybe even Judkins has a little bit more physical tools. I think he's a little bit faster. But yeah, I don't know about the Dylan Sampson pick. And then on top of it all, like you said, it seemed like they kind of didn't have a huge plan. I felt like this is where my conspiracy theorist comes in. I know you said you're not a big conspiracy theory guy. I am, especially in the sports world. There's a video of the Browns war room after they draft Shedeur Sanders, and Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry, and then, you know, everyone else is behind them. Neither of them look excited. They're kind of clapping. They're like, yeah. I seriously think that Jimmy Haslam, the owner of the Browns, made a call to them and said, he's there in the 5th round. He's the biggest name going into this draft. You have to take him. We're going to sell a lot of jerseys. We're going to get a lot of eyes on this team because of it. It's going to excite people. It's probably going to sell a couple more tickets. You have to take him. What do you think about that conspiracy theory? Because I don't think it's that crazy far-fetched.
I don't think it's the craziest thing I've heard, but I mean, I know an owner can't really be on a hot seat because they make the decisions, but it seems like the fans are kind of at their, you know, boiling point when it comes to this guy and the ownership of the Browns. If I had to take a guess, I hadn't thought about that. I thought that maybe Deion Sanders was somehow had some type of connection with someone in the front office of the Browns.
Oh, so
that's what I thought
your
it was.
conspiracy theory.
That's my theory there. I mean, it makes sense. Deion is super connected around the league. He worked for NFL Network. He definitely has guys he's friendly with, and then he probably has a lot of enemies out there. There were probably a lot of teams out there from the beginning. They're like, yeah, we're not drafting this kid because he's Deion Sanders' kid, and Deion Sanders has been a jerk to us. And that wouldn't surprise me at all. But he definitely has some friends around the league. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's got some in the Cleveland organization.
Yeah, my only thing about that is that in the pre-draft, interviews and stuff, I saw a clip of them asking Deion, and he said something about Shedeur going to the Giants, and they said something about oh, well, what about Cleveland? He was like, Cleveland, huh? Yeah, well, we're hoping for New York, and it was like, oh, okay, he's kind of low key shitting on Cleveland and the Browns.
Yeah.
And then also my other thing that makes me feel like Jimmy Haslam put that call in also is that there was another clip that came out of when Andrew Berry calls Shedeur Sanders and says like, hey, we're going to take you here with this pick. And right off the bat, he's kind of like, hey, man, you're going to have to earn your keep. You're going to have to put your head down and work. I know it's been a long weekend for you, but it's not over now. It's going to be even longer pretty much. Like you're going to have to do a bunch of work and be the first one in, last one out, stuff like that, where it almost immediately sounded like, hey, listen here, kid, you think you're hot shit and you think you're all that, you're going to have to prove it here and you're going to have to do something if you really want to be the guy who you think you are.
I mean, if I was an owner, I'd probably do the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not saying
once
they're
you get
wrong
to
for
the
saying that.
Especially just drafting him, going back, in the 5th round, there's got to come a point where somebody's like, all right, that's enough. This guy is Deion Sanders' kid. You forget about the noise. At this point, there's really not a huge commitment to him. You could drop him before the season starts if things get crazy, and it's not going to really affect anything. So
a lot of 5th round
definitely not
quarterbacks
my
end up on the
least-
practice squad their rookie year.
For sure. It's definitely not my least favorite pick from the Browns this year. But if I had to say my favorite, Harold Fannin Jr., this was a guy that you were talking about before the draft even happened. Tight end out of Bowling Green. You got to love the MAC. You got to love tight ends from the MAC. Lucas, talk to me about Harold Fannin Jr. and what you see in this guy.
Dom, I'm so glad you brought him up because I haven't smiled at all this first segment, and I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, but the second you said Harold Fannin Jr., my favorite pick from the Browns, I started smiling. I couldn't help it because I am excited to see the man out of Canton McKinley and then Bowling Green to stay in Ohio, stay in brown and orange, and be the tight end alongside David Njoku. I think we're going to see a lot of 12 personnel this year. I think that he is a pass-catching tight end, too. That's a lot like David Njoku, where he's a great athlete. You saw it in a lot of the clips that they showed during his draft profile. Not only is he making really, really good plays against people from the MAC, but when they played against Texas A&M this year, when they played against Penn State, BG's feeding him the ball because he's the best player on the field for them. And he's not just making catches but getting barely, bottled up. He's making catches and doing stuff after the catch a lot like David Njoku does with the Browns, and he has really morphed into that the last couple of years. I love this pick. I think it adds another great weapon to the offense without having to do it in the 1st or 2nd round and without having to stray away from, a thing that Kevin Stefanski really likes. I feel like the pro style offenses that he runs really thrive when it has good tight ends. And I think that Harold Fannin Jr. is a great X factor for any passing offense.
Yeah, I agree. There's a reason he went at this spot. There's a reason he was this highly touted coming out of the MAC, and that's because, like you said, he's a standout player. Last year, leading the FBS in receptions, 117 of them, and in total receiving yards with 1,500. And this guy, a little bit undersized for the tight end position, so they say, But like you said, fitting in with the Stefanski offense, I think it could work out really well for them. I agree. My favorite pick that the Browns took in the 2025 draft.
I mean, how can you not look at a guy who is one out of the MAC and getting Biletnikoff Award nominations, but also a tight end, and he's getting Biletnikoff Award nominations. Biletnikoff Award is the best pass catcher in the nation. How often do you see a tight end up for that award? Not very often, but we got a guy who was a tight end up for the Biletnikoff in Harold Fannin Jr. Very excited about that. One of the few things I'm very, very excited for the Browns in 2025. 216-859-8699. Let us know what you're excited about for the Browns in the 2025 season, even if it is just seeing Shedeur on the sidelines throwing up his watch. Behind Enemy Lines, stick with us through the break.
What's the difference between the shirt you're currently wearing and the one that I am? Well, both do their job of concealing us from the outside world and social boundaries. But one little black swoosh makes yours cost nearly double. That red rectangle may not change how warm you are, but it certainly changes the price tag. The truth is, nobody cares about the details. Get to the point with GenericClothes.com. Have a laugh at the big brand clothing company's expense with shirts that simply say sports team, political statement, music band, and more. A shirt for any occasion and the perfect gift. GenericClothes.com.
Hi, this is Melissa.
And hey, it's Matt.
Hi guys, my name is Ari.
Coming at you from Synergy Music Studio.
Come through to a Synergy Naked session.
Synergy Naked is a live performance recording, also captured on video. Look for our releases on YouTube at Synergy Music Studio.
We're located on the south side near Chicago.
Passing through? Hit up our DMs on Instagram at Synergy Music Studio. Rock hard.
We're back here on Behind Enemy Lines on WSRR Radio, brought to you by Hellbender Vinyl. If LimeWire taught us anything, Dom, it's that your digital music is free and open to piracy and even manipulation when it comes to digital distribution. So why settle for a bunch of ones and zeros floating around on the internet? Make your release something special with Hellbender Vinyl. Hellbender is one of America's most trusted custom vinyl record pressing plants and works with local artists to get their next release pressed exactly to their liking. So check out Pittsburgh's first and only custom vinyl pressing plant today by visiting hellbendervinyl.com to get started. And don't forget, all customers at Hellbender Vinyl get 5 free test presses at no additional charge. That's 5 free test presses at no additional charge, Dom. You don't even have to pay anything additional. Hellbent on quality, hellbent on service. Hellbendervinyl.com right here in Pittsburgh, just blocks away from where I'm recording this in Lawrenceville. And Dom, just blocks away, just across the river from me on the North Shore, just blocks away from you where you're recording this episode.
That's right.
Is the Pittsburgh Steelers Stadium, Acrisure Stadium. And we're going to get right back into the 2025 draft, days 2 and 3, and talk about what the Steelers did, because the Steelers found a guy in their quarterback room who, if you've listened to this program, you know I was pretty high on coming into this. Dom, Will Howard going to the black and gold along with another Buckeye, Jack Sawyer. What'd you make of days 2 and 3 of the Steelers draft?
I mean, you got to love Will Howard, but I think we got to start from the top. We'll get to those Ohio State boys. Second round, Caleb Johnson. This is a guy who I was interested in from the beginning. We definitely needed a running back after Najee Harris went to the Chargers. He wasn't like my favorite running back in this draft, but I did think it was a very running back rich class. And getting him in the third round, pick number 83, I think it was pretty good value. But when I watch the tape, the first thing I think about is this guy looks a lot like Najee Harris. And, maybe that's not a bad thing, but I kind of wanted to change of pace.
Because he was wearing black and yellow?
No, he's just like a physical, big running back. I just think they run similar. But yeah, him running the black and gold definitely helps me get adjusted. It was nice watching. It helped me get a little bit more fired up They also drafted another Iowa guy later in the draft, but we can touch on him later. But the good thing about Johnson, the big stat that I've heard, is that during his time at Iowa, he only fumbled twice, which, that's all we really need to see. Just protect the ball, get upfield, get hard, dirty yards. I think he's going to complement Jaylen Warren pretty nice.
Yeah, and I really liked this pick also for the Steelers, as much as I don't like the Steelers, but I thought he's a really good back. Getting him in the third round, like you said, he's a big physical back, aggressive runner. I don't think that there's much drop-off between Omarion Hampton, who was like a surefire first-rounder, and Caleb Johnson, a guy who went mid-third round. I mean, you look at this team like Iowa, the only way that they score points is through the run game. Like, they obviously use their running backs a lot. Mm-hmm. They never have a passing offense. And he still led the Big Ten in rushing, did he not? Correct? I'm writing that stat, right, Tom?
That does sound right. I can't confirm, but I would believe it. He definitely was the best running back in the big, or I wouldn't say he got a lot of yards. Let's just say that.
Yeah,
the guy put up numbers.
A very effective running back in a run-heavy offense where when you play Iowa, you kind of know that they're going to run the ball, and he still was able to be successful. I think that, unfortunately, from a Browns fan's perspective, this was a really good pick, and I do really think that Caleb Johnson's going to be a really good back, and I think that him and Jaylen Warren are going to pair really well together.
Don't forget about Kenny Gainwell, too, new Pittsburgh Steeler.
That's right. I forgot. That's another pickup in the Steelers offseason. He's a guy who, for whatever reason, mostly just because my fantasy team's running backs are terrible, I have had him on my dynasty fantasy team for the last 3 years.
Yeah. I think we both kind of have a similar mindset when it comes to running backs in fantasy football. It's like, we got to get the stud wide receivers before we get to running backs. Is that right?
Yeah, I agree. Which kind of puts me in a weird spot because I have the 8th and 9th pick this year in the rookie draft. And I'm really thinking that I might just take Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins at 8 and 9. We'll see who's there.
I think one of them's going to be gone. At least one of them.
Yeah. I think Henderson's going to go before Judkins in a lot of drafts.
And I'm not a huge fan of that. I definitely like Judkins with the Browns more than Henderson with the Patriots.
Really?
Yeah, definitely. I like the situation that Judkins has, and I think he's more of an NFL back. I don't know if Travion's style translates to the NFL. That's just my 2 cents on the matter. But speaking of Ohio State, yeah, we'll keep it with Ohio State, though, because the next pick that the Steelers had, round number 4, pick 123, Jack Sawyer, the edge rusher out of Ohio State. He was a guy who I was a huge fan of. Loved his game in college. Didn't really think that he'd be great in the NFL. I'm still not 100% sold. Honestly, it's probably my least favorite pick that the Steelers took in the draft, but that says a lot because he's a player that I like a lot. I really love the intensity that he has for the game. But, Steelers, they got TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, and this Nick Herbig guy who's really been shown that he's a special edge rusher as well. The Steelers are pretty deep in that. But I think they saw the value was too good to pass up. I think he slipped a bit in this draft. The guy's just got a knack for making big plays. I think he's going to do a lot, especially once he hears that Renegade going. It's just classic Pittsburgh Steelers, though, continuing to strengthen that run defense. And that was the thing that the Steelers fans were complaining about all this past season. So I think it could help, adds a layer of depth, and we get a winner from Ohio State and Jack Sawyer. Yeah,
I think it was a really good pick for the Steelers. I really like Jack Sawyer. I kind of wanted the Browns to take him because he's an Ohio guy. He's a Buckeye. I was kind of iffy on him because he is a little bit small for the defensive end position in the NFL. He doesn't have maybe some of the best physical attributes. He's not quite as strong as sometimes you'd like to see. Maybe not quite as fast as 40 time. Maybe didn't jump off the page. But I think that this guy, he's a football player. Like, he's a tough SOB. He's a guy that you want to go to war with. And he's a guy you can tell loves the game. He also plays with really, really good technique. Like you watch him on some of his pass rushes, like the biggest play of the year for him and really for Ohio State was the strip sack and scoop and score from him against Texas, where, he comes around the edge, takes it away from Quinn Ewers, picks it up and goes like 80 yards. He's a lot smaller and maybe a worse athlete than Texas's right tackle on that play, but he uses great technique, great hand fighting. Like, again, nothing that he does like athletically really looks like it's like, oh my God, he's not Myles Garrett where it's like he's jumping off the page, he's way better, but he does everything, his hand fighting, with really good technique. And you can tell that he really puts his craft, like really masters that craft.
Yeah.
And I think that's the reason that he's going to be a really good pro. And I think that he's really going to fit in with Pittsburgh's defense in ways that, because of stuff like that, little things like that.
I think he's a natural born Pittsburgh Steeler. I think it was the spot for him to go, because you're right. Like, he doesn't have the attributes. He doesn't have the 40 times. He doesn't have all this BS from the combine, but what he does have is grit. He's got heart, and he's got a clutch factor to him. I mean, think about the Cotton Bowl, the strip sack. That was a game-sealing play. That was a major factor in the Ohio State national championship run. This guy just knows when to make plays. Something you can't teach.
A huge point too, where like Texas was threatening and they could have tied the game in the fourth quarter, and put a lot of stress on the Ohio State offense. And instead, he comes around the edge, just makes a really good play. And, at a time like that too, where you can focus on, I'm just going to do my technique and do the move that I've done 100,000 times in practice instead of trying to do something crazy. Like, I'm going to stay within myself, stay balanced, focus on my footwork, focus on my hand fighting. Like, that is, like you said, he's got a good clutch gene. And I really just think he's a good football player. Whether or not he's the best athlete on the field, he's a good football player. And yeah, I do think, like you said, he kind of is. Like, the second that he got picked there, I was like, yeah, that makes sense for the Steelers to pick him.
He's just a Steelers type of guy. They might be bringing back that steel curtain type of mentality. They got another big defensive player out of Iowa, stuck with the trend of getting these Big Ten players here. They took this guy named, believe pronounced Uriah Black. He's a nose tackle out of Iowa. And I hope we got some Steelers fans listening, because you all know about Casey Hampton. They called him Big Snack because he was a massive dude. Well, guess what? This guy that the Steelers just drafted, he's even bigger than Casey Hampton. Mm-hmm. He's 6'5", 317 pounds. This is the exact type of guy that I've been talking about that the Steelers need. A truly athletic freak that is just a force of nature, a Jordan Davis type of player. These are the type of guys that you need to win and succeed in the NFL. And adding to that defensive line, I love it. I can't hate that pick at all. It might be a little boring for some people, but just the size alone, that factor excites me.
Yeah, and again, we talked about this when we talked about day one when they took Derek Harmon out of Oregon, the D tackle. Like, they're just really, really shoring up the fact that they're going to have the best front seven against whoever they play. They really want to stop offenses from running the ball, and they really are going to just focus on being a defensive anchor team. They took 2 offensive players in this draft in Caleb Johnson, which we talked about, and Will Howard, which we will talk about. And then they took 2 D tackles, an edge rusher, a linebacker, a cornerback. Like, again, they're trying to once again prove that we can win games by focusing on the defensive side of the ball. They went out and got DK Metcalf to shore up their offense a little bit. They got a new running back to replace Najee Harris. There's still question marks at quarterback whether or not Aaron Rodgers is going to sign, but like you still look at this team and it kind of is like it doesn't really matter who's playing quarterback. There's still a team that can win 8 to 10 games.
Yeah. That's all it is. They're still competitive. They can play the AFC North style of football that Mike Tomlin loves. It's going to be gritty. It might be ugly, but at the end of the day, you're winning more games than you're losing. Lucas, now let's get into probably the best pick that the Steelers had in this draft, the biggest value pick, Will Howard, quarterback, Ohio State University. the national championship winning quarterback. You were high on him before the draft. I was, interested. I was curious. But the more I learn about this guy, the more I watch this guy, the more excited and convinced I am that the Steelers have a franchise quarterback potentially in their room now.
Now, I will say I've been excited about Will Howard. I thought that maybe there was a possibility that the Browns were going to take him. I think you see a lot of Cleveland sports supporters who are Buckeye and Browns fans, and a lot of times you'll see them being like, oh, we're going to take a Buckeye. We're going to take this guy. We're going to take a Buckeye quarterback and keep him in Ohio. And I think that we got a little bit above our skis on that. And maybe that was a little unrealistic to even happen. The second they took him, my reaction was great. Will Howard's now going to be a dog for them. I went to work and there's a guy who is a diehard Steelers fan. And I was like, oh, you excited about Will Howard? And he was like, not really. I don't really love him. I think he'll be a good backup. I think he'll be on the team for a while, but I don't really think he's going to be some great Hall of Fame franchise quarterback. And the more I thought about it, the more I maybe agree. I still think that he can win a lot of games as quarterback. I think that he can be a system quarterback and run an offense and be a game manager. But again, I don't think he's going to do anything that jumps off the page. It's maybe necessarily going to win you a ton of games. He's going to not lose games, though. He's going to put them in position where, like I just said, they're going to be a defensive anchored team. They can win a lot of games where he only has to score 3 touchdowns. And I shouldn't even say he has to. The team, the offense only has to score 2 to 3 touchdowns, and get in position for Boswell to kick some field goals.
And I mean, that's kind of similar to what it was like during this playoff run for Ohio State. And he just protected the ball. He was super consistent in that national championship game, didn't have any turnovers. He knows how to play in the crunch time, and that's really the biggest thing. The guy just knows when to get it done. Will Howard is the guy, and the thing that excites me the most is that his measurables are very similar to Josh Allen. 6'4", 230 pounds. I think he knows when to run. He knows when to throw. Will Howard, he could be the guy for the Steelers. I think it's a phenomenal steal at pick 185.
Yeah, I do think it's a really good pick. I think that the measurables being similar to Josh Allen can be a little bit deceiving. I don't think he's quite as athletic as Josh Allen, and I don't think he has the arm talent of Josh Allen. But I do think that he has, like you said, he's the same height and weight, and I think that he can run the ball. I'm interested to see how his, that quarterback run game that you see in college football, it doesn't really always transfer to the NFL. I'm curious to see if he'll be able to transfer that, because it's maybe not quite as designed and things like that. But yeah, I think this is a really good value pick. Like you said, it's 185. He's not going to come in and it's like, yeah, you're our day one starter and you're going to be awesome and we're giving you the keys. But he's going to be a guy who comes in. And another thing that, I mentioned, I think I watched his John Gruden interview where he comes in. He's another guy, just like Jack Sawyer, who I think I can really tell loves football and he loves the game and he's a competitor.
Yeah.
He is a guy who's going to give his blood, sweat, and tears, and a guy you want to go to war with. Whether or not he is the best athlete on the field, he's going to try to be the best football player on the field. And I think that that's kind of a theme that I see with this 2025 Steelers draft that, should excite Steelers fans, but, maybe for some of us Browns fans does make us kind of go, all right, here it goes again, per usual, right?
Yeah, I mean, the Steelers are just following the blueprint that the Eagles have put forth. They draft winners. They draft teams from national championship winning teams. If you bring people from that type of culture, they're going to bring that culture with them. I think it's super important. I like what the Steelers do, and I wish they've done it more in the past. So overall, I think it was a really, really good draft from the Steelers. There were a few other picks. 7th round pick, Carson Bruner, linebacker of Washington. His dad was a tight end for the Steelers in the past. And then the 7th round pick, Dante Kent out of Central Michigan, a guy who I saw had let up a lot of huge, big plays, but he also had a ton of deflection. So the verdict's still out on him. Could be an exciting player, though, maybe on special teams. But overall, I think a very good draft from the Steelers. Omar Khan does it once again. But yeah, the Steelers, I think, low-key, sneakily, have put together a really good roster this offseason.
Yeah, and again, like you said, sneakily, I think that they have sneakily put together one of the best drafts of the 2025 year. I think that they kind of flew under the radar, but put a lot of really good cards in at really good times and had a lot of very good value picks to make them better. And once again, put them in a situation where they can win right now. Maybe not a Super Bowl right now because, again, that quarterback is behind enemy lines. Keep listening through the break for our last segment of the day. No, we don't know yet for sure.
It's just happening.
I mean, it's not 100%, but again, if Aaron Rodgers doesn't go there, I think we've said it. Where the hell else is he going to go? 216-859-8699. Let us know if you have a landing spot for Rodgers, because we sure as hell don't.
Hey, Style here, and I want to take a minute to talk to you about Hellbender Vinyl, a proud supporter of local and independent music and a proud supporter of WSRR Radio. Hellbender Vinyl is one of America's most trusted custom vinyl pressing plants. Located in Upper Lawrenceville on Butler Street, Hellbender is Pittsburgh's first and only vinyl record pressing plant and is here to help local bands and artists get their albums onto vinyl. Hellbender Vinyl offers vinyl record pressings to ensure that albums don't just end up as a bunch of ones and zeros floating around somewhere on the internet. So, if you're interested in giving your album a physical release, you can visit hellbendervinyl.com to start the conversation today. Plus, every customer at Hellbender Vinyl receives 5 free test presses to review at no additional cost. Hellbent on quality, hellbent on service, hellbendervinyl.com.
All right, welcome back to Behind Enemy Lines here on WSRR Radio. We are very proud to plug WSRR's new merchandise. Go to WSRRradio-shop.fourthwall.com. Check out the finest merchandise in town. You got some of Behind Enemy Lines. You got some of the WSRR Radio. You can rep the brand. They got some fire stuff in here. What I'm looking at right now is the can-shaped glass, Lucas. I'm really liking the look of that Pepsi style. You got to check it out for yourself. So go over to WSRradio-shop.fourthwall.com. You can even get merch from your favorite shows, such as the Rebel Radio Show, the Off-Air Show, the Pigeonhole Show, or Behind Enemy Lines, the Cleveland Sports Show from Pittsburgh. Lucas, we got a fire mug. I might get that. We got an even cooler vintage tie-dye crew neck. You guys just got to check this out for yourselves. Lucas, what are you really digging right now from what you're seeing?
Yeah, there's some high-quality stuff on there. I'm really digging some of the WSRR logos. There's some stuff there for our wrestling fans. There's this one that says WSRR is radio, and it's kind of in the Raw is War type of font. And then another one that's a little WSRR radio in the old SmackDown logo type style. I might cop one of those for myself. Maybe even one of those tie-dye Johns. Those are pretty fancy. I'm really digging on those. So maybe in the near future you might catch me in one of those, especially when it's the summer. Like, summer is tie-dye season, baby. You gotta rock some tie-dye, right?
Oh God. Behind Enemy Lines got that like orange and white one. You can get a pretty cool looking like space kind of vintage looking crew neck. I'm really digging that. They got some awesome stuff. So
there's some really cool stuff on there. Maybe get ourselves a Behind Enemy Line mug, because I'm a coffee guy.
No doubt. You got to be drinking that mud. So just head on over
to
WSRRradio-shop.fourthwall.com, or you can just check out that WSRRadio.com, and you can check that out. Take a listen to some of the fine program they got over there and meander on over to the nice merchandise. So, Lucas, back to the program. What do you got for us in our final segment, the Unhinged segment? The Rizzler, we could talk about him a little bit. We could talk about our golfing experience the other day. We could talk about one of the best hot dogs we ever had the other day. Just a free plug for Dell's over in, I believe, West Mifflin, Pennsylvania. Best hot dog I may have ever had.
Yeah, honestly, we had a life-changing dog experience. We went golfing on Friday, and every time we go golf, I drive by this place called Dell's Sunday Grill, and Sunday spelled like, an ice cream sundae. And
Yep.
I was like, man, I always want to stop there. And, there's something that me and Dom have to do as much as possible, and that's get a turn dog. Between the front and back nine, you get a hot dog at the turn. And recently we've been going a little too early, and apparently the clubhouse
Well,
bar isn't
we
open
also
at
had to
10 o'clock.
We also had to skip the first 4 holes of the front 9.
Yeah, that was a
Because we
whole
had
that was a
old
whole
heads.
mess in and of itself. But whatever. The turn,
No dogs.
apparently the bar isn't open at 10:30. So we
What a
couldn't find
shame.
any dogs. So we had to go to Dell's, and just absolutely spectacular product. We got some Arctic swirls, we got some dogs, I got a burger, and it was just spectacular quality dog. They toasted the bun. It's May now. It is fully hot dog season. I'm heavily considering doing a TikTok series of Pittsburgh hot dog reviews. I think it might be a good marketing scheme for my real estate business,
No
because
doubt.
what's a city really built on? The cuisine. And what's a staple of Pittsburgh cuisine? Am I finding out? It's hot dogs. Hot dogs are
I
big
gotta
here.
I gotta be in on some of these hot dog runs because I'm an aficionado myself. I got a few places on the list that I need to check out because it is one of life's simple pleasures. And like you said,
It's a
Dell's,
true guilty
they had that
pleasure.
bun. They had that bun toasted to perfection. They knew what they were doing in that place.
And by the way,
Shout out.
Dell's spectacular chili. I got a chili dog, and usually I'm not like a huge chili dog guy, but I will get it if it's there. And usually I'm kind of like, the chili's good. I like it because it's more moisture. I like a wet food. I like when I get Chipotle, I get the vinaigrette, I get the sour cream, I get guac, so it's as wet of a bowl as it can be. Maybe that's not the
Soup.
best descriptor word to make it, but yeah, I want it soupy. This chili was spectacular. It was very reminiscent of a walking taco chili, where you take it,
Real
and you
hearty.
scoop it into a bag of Doritos. It was spectacular. It had spectacular flavor to it, a little bit of a kick. Really, really one of the best chili dogs that I've ever gotten. And that was the only thing I got on that dog, too. Didn't get onions, didn't get cheese, just a chili dog. Spectacular.
It's class. I don't know if I've ever had a chili dog in my life, but next time we go there, I might have to. I got the foot-long dog. The only thing that I can say that I didn't love about going there was when she came out, she said, all right, here's the hot dog, and here's the foot-long dog in front of everybody. I was like, damn. She kind of exposed me for
doxed
that.
you for getting the footer.
But the taste of it made up for it. I burnt my tongue as soon as I bit into it. But I got the works, the ketchup, mustard, relish, onions. That's really all you need for a good dog right there. And that foot-long dog was god darn delicious, let me tell you, Lucas.
And one thing that they do that was interesting is they go condiments under the dog. They condiment
Love that.
They condiment the bun without the dog, and then they throw the dog on top, which originally I was kind of like, I don't know how I feel about that. But then you think about it, and that really keeps, if you have all of the relish, the onions, the ketchup, the mustard on the top, it can kind of be like separate, like a bite where you're tasting the condiment and then under it is the dog. Whereas if it's sandwiched between the bun and the dog, it really melds the flavors together in a better way, and it's less stuff is falling off.
Yeah, I honestly had never thought of it that before, but it was genius. Props to Dell's.
Same thing when she gave me the chili dog, I was like, oh, they didn't get the chili on there. And then I lift the dog and I'm like, oh, they lathered this bun with chili, baby.
There's an abundance of chili under there.
Oh, they did it. They did it well. And then me and Dom, I will say now, the service, maybe not the quickest. If you're going to go, you got to have 45 minutes of your day carved out because it wasn't.
Well, they only had one person working
and I
there.
wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt because when we went the first time, the lady working said, I just sent my son who also worked. She was the owner. She goes, I just sent my son out to go to the grocery store to get more stuff. So she was by herself and it was us. There was 2 other groups there. I was like, you know what? It's probably taking a while because she's back there by herself. She's making the ice cream. She was making the hot dogs. She was making me a burger. She was doing a lot of stuff herself. I was like, all right, we can wait. Whatever. It's not a big deal. The people in front of us, too, got like cheese fries. Looked really good.
They did look good.
But me and Dom sat down on a bench. We were having some conversation while we were waiting for the dogs and the ice cream. And my wallet fell out of my pocket. I called 20 minutes later and I said, hey, I left my wallet there. They said, yeah, sure thing. Come on back. We're open till 9. Great excuse for me to go back and get another dog. I went back. I ran it back. This time I got the footlong. First time I didn't. I got the footlong dog this time.
With the chili?
Didn't get chili this time. This time I went full condiments with the ketchup, mustard, relish, and onions.
There you go.
No stadium mustard, by the way, because they don't
work.
have that here. That's
You asked about
Cleveland only. No, I did actually. I go, you guys don't have any like brown mustard or anything like that, right? No, we don't. I was like, that's okay. I understand.
Maybe one day.
But when I went back, she was there and her son was there, and it did take just about as long. It took pretty much the exact same. But again, it was busy. The people in front of me got a funnel cake, which I don't know the whole quality of making a funnel cake, but they got a funnel cake sundae. Actually, one of them got a funnel cake sundae, and the other one got fried Oreo sundae, which really just sounds spectacular.
I might need to get that next time.
It smelled heavenly, but I'll give, again, maybe not a big enough sample size. Maybe that's why it was taking too long. Maybe those are long processes of making those two
certainly there
things.
next time.
Yeah, we got to go back because it was absolutely heavenly. The dogs were nothing short of spectacular. I even asked for one small hot dog, no bun, for my dog that was with me. They gave me 2 because they said, nah, that's a good-looking pup. She's going to have 2. And they were, I took a nibble of one of them. Just the dog itself bursting with flavor.
Yeah, I don't know where they get them from, but they know what they're doing over there. That's just a free little promo from Behind Enemy Lines. And one more thing, we're wrapping up here, but people say that hot dogs are like bacon was back in like 2013. People kind of like made a meme about how good it was, how much they loved bacon when bacon really wasn't that good. Well, folks, I don't agree. Hot dogs are just as good, if not better, than the hype that they get. Hot dogs are one of the best things that America has ever created. The variations that you get are plenty. Bacon doesn't give you that variation. Just never compare hot dogs to bacon ever again, please.
Yeah, you can get a lot more creative with a hot dog. There's many more ways to take it. I think this might have to be a conversation that rolls into next week because I do think that's doing a disservice to the hot dog to say that we're making it into a meme. No, like
Coney
hot
dog.
dogs have culture around them. Like you said,
Seattle
Coney
dog.
dog, chili dog, Chicago dog. We might have to get, stadium mustard from Cleveland on a dog. There's
Dodger
culture
dog.
around a hot dog, and there's culture around this show. Thank you guys for listening to Behind Enemy Lines right here on WSRR Radio.
The preceding program was a sponsored production. The views, claims, and ideas expressed may not represent those of WSRR Radio.